beginning to warm up again.
It's good, right, Sergeant?
It's been
It's warm.
6 weeks or 6.
Just start with.
You're not going to say anything. You just going
No,
to
just tell me about Frank.
Okay, I'm going to tell you about Frank. Frank, my brother that was married before I was born, or just before, I think just after I was born, actually. So I didn't have many growing up experiences with Frank, but I do remember faintly, and maybe it's from stories that Frank and Thelma told me, but how they would used to babysit me when I was little, and would carry my little 7-Up bottle around with a nipple on it, and how I didn't know what margarine was, and I wanted butter from the cow, and I wanted milk. I didn't want milk from the store. I wanted milk from the cow. I remember my first Christmas. It's the only Christmas I remember that when I was real little. And I think I was in about the first grade when Frank and Thelma bought me a wind-up train, my first toy like that, and I was so thrilled with that wind-up train. And of course, toy trains are more interesting to the older people probably than they are to the kids. So Frank was busy showing me how to play with the train, and it was a wind-up, and he broke the spring, and it didn't work. That was on Christmas Day, by the way. And so Frank felt very, very bad and said, "Well, I'll get you whatever you want." And I said, "Well, what I would like an Indian suit." And so Frank bought me an Indian suit, which I wore to school. And I wore it to school, and every one of the kids made fun of me because I was dressed up in an Indian suit. And so I wouldn't wear it after that, but I enjoyed it anyway. Some of the things that I remember later on in my childhood with Frank, of course, lived next door to us. And Frank was doing a lot of painting of cars as a kind of a sideline. And I remember the Saturdays spending over helping him sand cars and listening to the football games. Those were kind of highlights. I really enjoyed looking forward to doing that and being able to just join with him. And Saturday was a big day of football games and working, sanding the cars and getting them ready to paint. And so I was able then, later on, when I had my first car, Jim might remember that 50 Chevy. You remember that 50 Chevy, Jim?
I got pictures of it.
You got pictures of it. It was a green car, and I decided it needed a paint job, so I came down and Frank let me shoot it and painted it. Actually, it turned out pretty decent. But then when I got back up to the base up at Travis, some kid took a key and scraped the whole side of the brand new paint job. So that's kind of my early days with Frank. I think probably the things that we enjoy the most now are when Frank sits down at the group meetings and begins to tell us stories of what happened in the early days of the family, especially remember the trip from Arizona, and then some of the things that went on during their growing up years that was exciting to us. So.
Well, the thing that impressed me most about Frank is his storytelling. He tells stories till you're almost there. You know, something that happened when he was young, he'll say, "Well, that was on a Thursday about 4 p.m. And it just holds your interest. And the thing I like about this family is you feel family.
Yeah.
They love you, and I felt welcome and part of the family from the very first day I met them all. So I just love them all dearly. I like a big family. I'm an only child. I came from a small family, but I love a big family, and I love this family.
That's
One of the things that I remember as a young child is Frank being the official house barber. He did the work for the whole family, and about every 2 or 3 weeks, maybe a month, we would get up on the stool and he'd go after us.
Did you like it?
Well, not exactly, because he had the hand clippers, and as you recall, hand clippers were just, they worked when he worked them. And sometimes he wouldn't work them quite as fast as he should, and so we ended up with a good pull. Well, we would lay it on pretty heavy because we had hollered plenty. But he always did a good job. and we really have some memories about that that are sort of unique to our family.
Yeah.
Then later on during the war, this is World War II, he worked 1 or 2 afternoons a week, and I ended up milking his cow for him those afternoons when he went to work at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So those are some of the good memories I have. We, in the early 60s, went into a partnership together, and we worked for 25 years together in this partnership, and we just closed it in 1986. And
Did you ever argue?
no, never had an argument in the 25 years. It was a good time. We just it just
John would
worked
lay it
out
out
good
and
for
say,
us.
"What do you think about this?" And Frank would say, "Fine, that's all right, fine, that's okay."
What-
John was the scout.
Was he?
He would be the one that would scout the
Yeah.
wells or the territory or what. You know.
What do you think of about Uncle Frank? What are your
Well,
feelings
Frank
about
and Thelma are very special to me because I never knew John's dad. And at the time I came into the family in '48, Grandma Rorick was very involved in just her own interests. And so there really wasn't like a mother-in-law, father-in-law image to come to. But Frank and Thelma played that part. They were like the grandpa and grandma, and excited with us when the babies came, and that's where Karen stayed the night that Kevin was born, and it was always like home. If we had something exciting to share, we'd come and share it with Frank and Thelma. If we were hurting, we'd come and share it with Frank and Thelma.
Oh. Isn't that
This is the home where we were married on July 7th, 1939. And Frank and Thelma very graciously opened their home to us and allowed us to have our wedding here.
Did it look like it does today?
Well, it's painted a different color, but it still looks very much like it did.
Were they nice to you and sweet to you?
Oh, very nice, very sweet. So we were the second couple in the family, and Jack was the only grandchild at that time. He was 3 years old, and Thelma was expecting Evie, and Sister Genevieve was expecting Daryl. Can you think of anything?
You know, just before the wedding, Frank gave me a haircut. He used to do that. That was one thing he did. But to go remember Frank, going back, I remember him down in the bicycle, having a paper route, fishing off the pier. A little later, maybe going to pool hall, although I didn't go with him. He used to like it. Frank was always my big brother, and he used to like to go down to the plunge. He was quite a swimmer. 10 cents was all it cost, and he was down there quite often in the summertime. Yeah, Frank always seemed to take my side when we got into little arguments with the kids. Maybe one reason why I particularly like to come down and see him.
Really?
But I really like being here and visit with Frank.
Did you hope to grow up to be like him?
Not particularly. I never had that thought. Not that I wouldn't have, but I just wanted to grow up to be myself.
You guys are nice.
What do you want me to do?
Tell your story.
Well, Frank has always been a wonderful brother to me, and I've enjoyed him immensely through the years. I can remember when he brought in this house, he and I worked on it. We worked on Mom's house next door. When I built a house up in Whittier, he came and helped me put in the foundation. He helped me put in the cement work for the driveway, and he's always been there when you needed him. And so I've appreciated him. He's been an all-around man that tackled any of these jobs himself. He repairs his own cars and does his own work and painting and whatever's necessary. And I admire him for it. Besides all of that, he's been a good, solid Christian, serving the Lord for many, many years.
Anything, Marie, that
Frank has always been an example to the rest of the family. Being the oldest member of the family, he has set a good example to all of us. And I came into the family when Jack and Evie Jo were just toddlers, like many of the children here today. And I have many wonderful memories of Frank and think this is a very important occasion on his 75th birthday.
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
A number of years back, when I was about maybe 7, I was left next door in that big old house taking a nap. And when I awakened, it was dark. And not only was it dark, but the house was empty. Completely empty. So I went downstairs, not thinking to turn a light on, parked myself on the couch in front of the big bay window overlooking the street, and commenced to cry myself sick, thinking how lonely and forlorn one can be. There was a single lamp burning in the middle of the intersection out in front. Finally, after crying for a long, long time, it occurred to me that I had an Uncle Frank. And not only did I have an Uncle Frank, but he was merely next door. So I marched myself over, blanket and all, next door, and I was rescued by my Uncle Frank and Aunt Thelma. That was a tremendous memory in my life, and a very important moment, and no one could have done it like they did it. And they took me in and let me wait there. Isn't that a neat story?
It's a lovely story. It's a lovely story.
For myself and the Benj family, I want to wish you a happy 75th birthday and hope that you have many, many more. It's been a pleasure having you for an uncle for all these years, and we had some good times in the younger days. I can remember spending a lot of time with you in your front room up there talking, and a lot of time in the garage watching your work and borrowing your tools, and it was nice memories. So once again, happy birthday.
We had chickens and turkeys and rabbits, and so one day he said, let's go out and fix this chicken for dinner. But I didn't know what he was going to do. So he grabs this chicken by the neck and raises up his hatchet, and wham, I got my first experience of chicken being head cut off.
Ooh, what'd you think of that?
Well, it's kind of bloody. The chicken was flopping around on the ground. I guess you weren't around for that.
Yeah, I saw those.
Did you see that?
Sounds like he's a pretty ruthless guy. Was he ruthless?
Hungry.
No, he wasn't ruthless. When he gave spankings, he said, this would always hurt me more than it hurt you.
Did you believe him?
Yeah, I do believe it. Sure.
I have the best set of parents in the world. I've told him that as well. And I've told my dad that he's always been there for me, and I appreciate it. And I couldn't love him more. He's been perfect.
Is it true that daddies love their daughters a lot?
Yes, they really do.
And the same, and reciprocal, right?
Yes, it is. It's very. It's a bond that I don't know if it can be repeated in any other way other than dad and daughter. Yeah.
I met Dad was in the summer of 1957, and Jack brought me down here. I'd been staying with an uncle up in Studio City, and of course I was nervous to meet him all. And I remember coming in the living room. I had on a summer dress and high heels, and I sat on the ottoman to his red leather chair. And I sat there. I was trying to sit there very prim and proper and be polite and everything, and he just really made me feel at home. Made me feel at home all the rest of the time I've known him.
Really? Do you love him a lot?
I love him very much. I'm lucky to have him.
Oh.
Well, I think the thing I think about Grandpa is he always is there for with a hug and a kiss. And if I had a bunch of grandpas, I think I would say that he was one of the best.
Really?
I remember that he's always had a story or something from his childhood. He seems to remember so much, and I don't know, I just
wish we could record it.
Yeah. Get a tape recorder next time, but I just don't think I could ever have a better grandpa than
little happy birthday card for Frank.
Go ahead.
Okay, I would like to tell about an incident when I was just a very young fella, 6 or 7 years old maybe, during the 1933 earthquake. And we had just finished dinner, and most of the family had got up and left and was around the house doing different things. But John and George and I and Frank were still at the table in the kitchen when the earthquake hit. And Frank had John on one side and George on the other. And he grabbed John and he tried to grab George, but George ran on the table. So Frank run John outside, and I was behind the table, so Frank went back in from behind the table, grabbed me and George and ran us outside, set us out in the middle of the road out there. And it was quite amazing to watch it. The ground was waving. It was really something. Something I'll never forget. Just one of the caring things that you know about Frank. He always cared.
Try to take care of all of you a little bit?
Oh yeah. Yeah, he was a big brother.
Yeah.
Still is.
That's for sure. What do you treasure about him? Anything about him you especially remember?
I think it's just that he's always made me feel, even from the first day that I was a part of the family, that I was loved by everybody. And that's the way Frank is. Shows his love to everybody.
Okay, on my 16th birthday, I wanted a birthday party, so I had quite a few of my friends in, but I thought there was one fellow I wanted, and that was Frank. So I invited him, and he came to the party, and I thought, now this is the one I want. So he went home, and it was a few weeks later, it was a Sunday night, and I said to my dad, I knew they were going to church here in Huntington Beach, and I said, you bring me in to Huntington Beach, I'm going to find Frank Rohrig at that church. He said, how will you get home? I said, don't worry about it, because I'm going to have him bring me home. So anyway, I met him there, and he was with another girl, and so I sat with his sister Genevieve. And so I told Genevieve what I wanted, and she said, I'll get it fixed up. She said, it'll be all right. So before the evening was over, I was sitting with him in church, and he brought me home. And we went together ever since. Went together 4 years, and then was married. So, got enough?
Yeah. Okay.
What attracted me was, of course, his very good looks. He's dark hair, he's very good looking, and he played football, and I liked football. So he gave me his black sweater to wear, and he earned the orange H for Huntington, and I sewed that on the sweater, and I was I think a junior in high school, and wore that then during my junior and senior year. Of course, he was already out of school.
Yeah.
But so that's what attracted me, was his physique and his kindness and the way he did things, I guess. I don't know.
Through the years, has he gotten sweeter or?
Yeah, we've grown together, you know, and mellower and everything.
Mm-hmm. You wouldn't do it any differently if you could do it all again?
No, wouldn't do it any different.
You still love him?
Yes.
Think you love him more now than ever?
Oh yes, bound to. But like I told James, they're all alike, all the Rohrig boys. They're all the same. You know, they just have that distinctness about them. I don't know what it is.
They're special.
Yeah, they're special.
They are special. I know.
James does it too. They all have it. It carries on down. Yeah. I think that ought to be enough, James.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Frank. Happy birthday to you.
We love you.